9 potential warning signs that can signal an individual may be in a crisis or needs help. And so when we know that people need help, we may not be certified in that area to provide them with the help, but we want to make sure that we hopefully can steer them in the direction to someone or to an organization, people who can provide the service that they need. So we don't want to continue to ignore it. If we continue to turn a blind eye to whatever the issue may be, again, it's 9 times out of 10 going to manifest itself in a negative way. And so we want to make sure we do our parts to end shootings, to end violence. I am a teacher, and oftentimes I'm fully aware. I'm trying to be fully aware. I'm watching, I'm observing. The kids are always like, what you staring at? What are you? Because I'm trying to make sure that I'm also teaching, but I'm also aware of what's going on, because sometimes, as I've had a situation in the past, students were angry with each other. And so I felt something weird. It was just something in the environment. It was just kind of hard to explain, because everything looked fine, right? Everything that I could hear was right. There wasn't anything that I could tell you right now that I could recall that made me feel or sense that something was going on. And it ended up being a plot to fight. And so this plotting was taking place from kind of from class to class. And because the supervision was very, very tight, so it couldn't happen as quickly in one setting. So it had to kind of extend over. And so I was picking up that feeling, that tension from another class that, again, didn't really visually appear in my class, but I could feel that something was wrong. And it's weird. You're saying, well, how can you say that you could feel something or sense something when you can't tell us, well, what exactly it was? I can't tell you what exactly it was, but something just didn't seem right. And so I asked questions. I paused. I didn't just brush it off. I didn't just say, oh, well, let me get on with my lesson. I need to get started. And again, the no fault really to anyone who does, because it could just be that robotic mode that we go into, the habit of just doing what it is we're doing. And so that's why we're having this conversation, so that we can break that robotic mode that we sometimes enter into when we just are just moving, because we do the same thing kind of in and out. So we're just doing it. We want to make sure that we're alert. You know how we are when we go places. I want to be aware of my surroundings. So that's what we want to do at all times. And we want to teach our children to do it as well. And so that's pretty much what I was doing that day. And so I kind of paused and I made a few calls, and it took me a few minutes, but I put, 2 and 2 together, and I realized, okay. All right. I don't know if it's supposed to happen here at this moment. I don't know. So I need to be mindful of it. Let me see what can be done. How can I kind of separate, people without it, being known, so that the process doesn't get sped up because, she knows something is getting ready to happen. And it ended up being that these students were in agreement. They wanted to fight each other. So they were doing their best to not give me any sign that something was going on. I don't know if it was intuition or somehow I was still able to pick up that something was going on. They were working hard to make sure I didn't. They weren't saying anything really to each other. There was no spewing anything back and forth, but it was just, I guess I could say maybe it was just in the body language per se of the others who maybe were not necessarily involved, but may also have been aware that something's going to pop off. Maybe it was just some slanting of the eyes, not directly at each other, but kind of maybe watching me a little bit more. So it may have been something like that made me realize, okay, something is going on. So these are the things that we want us to be aware of. So pay attention to your surroundings. Number 1, outside of that, pay attention to people who may suddenly withdraw from friends, family, or activities, including online activity via social media, especially if we know people are very, very active, and then all of a sudden, they kind of disappear. We want to at least ask what's going on. So I have friends who will put up taking a break from social media or some type of sign they'll put up as their profile picture, and then I may reach out then, hey, what's going on? Oh, okay, cool, just busy at work. Awesome, got it, got to focus, just got to take a mental health break from it. Fabulous, got it. So we want to make sure that we do reach out to people when we see these things, because there's a reason, okay? And it may be a great reason or a positive reason, just like, hey, I'm trying to get a promotion, so I want to get focused. Great. But in the chance that it's not, we want to go, okay, hold up, wait a minute, something isn't right. 2, pay attention for incidents of bullying, especially if targeted towards differences in race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. These things can lead, in many cases, people to behave in a negative way. And so we want to pay attention to those and not just brush it off. We know that we do tend to live in a society in many places where we kind of live by the mantra of, minding my business, that's not my business. And so I believe that you can still mind your business and also mind your business of the business that's happening around you, because that is kind of your business, because it becomes the issue of your safety and the safety of those around you. So the goal is not to get anyone in trouble. The goal is to stop other people before they get themselves in trouble. The goal is to provide them with assistance before they get to the point where they may actually begin planning something, or to ask, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? Be a friendly face if you feel comfortable in that type of situation. Or again, if you don't, find someone who is a professional who can. So we also want to 3, pay attention to someone or people who may tend to all of a sudden especially become irritable, excessive irritability, lack of patience, or becoming angry quickly. Again, we want to get to the source of it, get to the root of what's going on. Let's talk about it. Let's get help if needed. Pay attention to those experiencing chronic loneliness or social isolation. So we know that because of the pandemic, and especially the first year or so when we were really shut in and just going out to do the necessary, reports coming in left and right because of the pandemics, being in the home, abuse rates, domestic violence, whatever the case may be, sky high, going up, 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 up. People being in the house, with each other and in each other's face all the time, whatever the issue may be. And issues arise, unfortunately. And so these cases of violence began to spike. And so we want to pay attention to what's happening to people when we are in those types of situations, especially, and even those who may, again, express, they may have lots of people around them, because it is possible to really feel isolated and lonely, even if you have a room full of people around you. So we want to reach out to those people. And you can reach out by starting with hello. Again, next we have 5, expressing persistent thoughts of harming themselves or someone else. Sometimes we say things and we, oh, it was a joke. I don't really take too many things lightly when it's regarding harming someone, harming themselves or someone, because I don't want it on my conscience, if it actually materializes. So we want to, again, make sure we know the people really well if you're going to say, oh, the person was just joking. I, again, want us to get to the place where we can be better safe than sorry. Kind of investigate it a little bit more. You might want to continue the conversation. If you don't feel comfortable, find someone who is comfortable. 6, we want to watch out for people or persons making direct threats toward a place, another person, or themselves. 7, bragging about access to guns or weapons, because many students, we know many adults have access or they can go get one, but many young people have access to guns, So many report that they live in a house where guns are not locked up. And we can see how in the heat of a moment, or, sometimes kids are just playing around with the gun and they may shoot themselves or accidentally shoot a playmate roommate or a friend who may be over. But in the heat of an argument, we know we've been there before. It may just be, I said this and I didn't mean to. And we can apologize and we can move on. The person may not forget the words, but they can move on. But if it leads to, in the heat of a moment, and I knew where that gun was and I went and I grabbed it, we can't take that back. We can't take back what happens after that, And so again, the goal is to do our part to make sure we don't get there. Lock it up, lock it up, lock it up, lock it up. Because our kids know more than they probably tell us, okay? Sometimes I would say, based on the conversations and things that I hear them speak about, and they speak about it with much authority, they know more than we think they know. The things sometimes we think are hidden, they are not hidden. So this is unfortunately a reality. This is something that we don't like to have to talk about, but it is something that we have to talk about because it is preventable. There are many things in life that we cannot prevent. There are many medical things that we can't prevent. Science can't figure it out. We don't know why this happens. It just does. Those things we can't prevent, but this we can prevent. We can do our part to prevent it. 8, recruiting accomplices or audiences for an attack. Pay attention, because sometimes people like company. Many times the act can be plotted alone, but in many cases, people enjoy company. It's kind of like how we say misery enjoys company. People enjoy company. So there could be a recruiting going on right underneath our nose in our community, and we just think little so-and-so, little John Doe and little Jane Doe is just hanging out with a new group of friends or with the friends as they always have. Figure out what's going on. Oh, we know they don't want to hear it. Oh, they're going to just, oh, here she goes again. But they need to hear it, and they will soak in more than you realize. I tell people that all the time. My students will soak in more than sometimes I realize, because I will see them later on doing something that applies to what I just shared or that I was just preaching about, as they would like to say. And that lets me know that even if they aren't aware of it, they are taking it in. So have these conversations, okay? Because if you're not having the conversation, so social media is. Social media is influencing them left and right. Other people influencing them left and right. So be the biggest influence, positive influence in their life, your child's life, your relatives, the other children in your family, those in your community. Now, let's have these conversations, because these things again are happening with or without us per se. And it's like it just goes around, and then it reaches your corner of the world, then it reaches your corner of the world, and it goes and goes and goes. Well, I don't want it to have to keep going around into our corners before we can put up a sad emoji or prayer hands on social media. I want us to do our part. Use a National Youth Violence Prevention Week frame. We have that available. That's one way of sparking the conversation. People seeing that you use the frame on social media, go search for it, click on your profile, search for the frame, and you will see it's a green frame. I'm using it on my page. Many others are using it as well. Change your frame for the entire week so that other people may see it and tap on it as well to try it out and use it. And then that can again spark a conversation. Many people don't even realize it's National Youth Violence Prevention Week. And so we want to continue to have these conversations. And 9, we want to be mindful of people or persons who directly express a threat as a plan. So I know sometimes when we're trying to figure out, was the person just saying this in the heat of it all, we're kind of asking ourselves, okay, when he or she said something, did it sound like a plan? Did it sound like, much thought was given to it? See, I don't find myself to be much of an expert, okay? When I don't feel comfortable taking that chance. So that's why I live by the mantra, better safe than sorry. I try to make sure that I'm doing what's best for not just me, because my comfort level with this statement may be one thing, but other people can hear the same statement and it may be alarming to them. So I don't want this to be a subjective issue. I want it to be an issue where better safe than sorry. Let's go investigate. Let's go figure out who can touch bases with so and so.